Hey, what's up, everybody? Paul from For Real here with Jon Fealy from Fealys Clutch. We were on the 15 Minutes of Lame together. That is how we met. It is awesome. Chris is awesome. That was so much fun. So if you haven't seen any of that, go check out Chris's channel and check it out. So, John, how you doing tonight? Thanks for coming on.
Doing well, man. Doing well. Long days, long nights.
Yes,
No
sir.
sleep. Joys of this life that we
Yep. Yeah, well, so it's bad enough that when you have little kids, you have to feed them more often.
have.
And then you have snake kids that don't eat. And that's like stress, just like kids, because as you see these things, they just could fade away and be gone. And you never know. So, what are you working on right now? Why don't you go ahead and give everybody a little background, and then we'll spur off of that.
Okay. Yeah. I've been around for. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yes.
Okay. Been around for like 3, maybe 4 years. I've worked with a multitude of different species. Retics, ball pythons, ATBs, boa constrictors, corn snakes, MBKs. There's probably some other shit in there somewhere, but I'm trying to focus and build something that I can kind of build a business out of now. I guess is the best way of saying it. So I'm focusing on MBKs, ball pythons, and I'm still keeping retics. Eventually that crazy collection will probably come back for education purposes or whatever I decide to do in the future. But as of right now, it's just the main focus on ball pythons.
So, real quick, before we really get into this, I got my US Arc t-shirt, as you can see, US Arc. If you're not a member, please join. And I don't mean you, because I know you are. But for those that are watching that are not, please spend the $40. We need you as a person, as a number. The money is great, but the t-shirt is awesome. Like, man,
I'm still waiting. I wouldn't know.
You'll get yours soon. I think they just did a run, and I saw a bunch of people, and I was like, man, I ordered, like, I did this like a month ago, and I'm still waiting. But I saw people posting t-shirts, and then all of a sudden mine came. So it'll be soon.
It's all good. I like giving Phil a hard time anyway, so it gives me something to talk shit about at Arlington.
There you go. So ball pythons notoriously are difficult feeders out of the gate. We all know this. I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit here. I work for a nutraceutical company. So we do dietary supplements that are sold through doctors' offices by prescription. So my boss is experienced in formulation. So I am actually formulating, or me and my boss are formulating, a set of vitamins for predominantly snakes. But it'll be for, I think we're kind of factoring it for both, but predominantly the side of snakes: a prenatal, a postnatal, a calcium supplement, and a color enhancing supplement, which will help with sheds. It's supposed to help with shedding, and it's all supposed to help with pigment, like loss of pigment. So we're not 100% sure how that one's going to work, but the prenatal and postnatal are the two big ones. The calcium supplement, and we also are working on we're pushing forward with the big one, which is going to be the which we would call like an infant vitamin. So something that has calcium built up in it, but also has some other vitamins and supplements mixed in there too, to help spur their digestive tracts and get them really kind of pumped for food. So we've been working a little bit here and there. We're going to do some small runs and some testing, and then try to go from there. So I think that'll be something in the future that might help. I know Da Vinci's Boas has some pretty good stuff out there. It's hard to get because it's good. So he sells that stuff fast. So, which is a good thing. But I think it's a long time coming for us in the snake side of things that we have some vitamins out there that are actually good and do something good for the animals. So,
I mean, they've been doing vitamin type stuff in every animal except, well, I mean, they do it in reptiles, but you see it mostly in like lizards or like bearded dragon stuff like that, like your typical pet, you know what I mean? But an actual like vitamin for snakes would,
yeah,
it's an interesting concept, man. Like I've never even thought about that.
yeah, and it's so here's the thing. We focus so much on saying, hey, we have chameleons, bearded dragons, leopard geckos, crested geckos, and maybe not so much the cresteds, and that because their food is so rich with all that stuff. But when you're feeding bugs, you're gut loading, you're dusting,
Mm-hmm.
and we feed rats. And listen, I know there's going to be people are going to say, hey, you're feeding a whole prey item. That's more than enough. Well, guess what? In the wild, these snakes are eating a multitude of things.
Right.
We are not feeding our rats. If you're feeding chickens, whatever you're feeding, you're not feeding them diet that they have in the wild where they're from. They're not eating that specific. So also, if you're feeding frozen thawed, is there any degradation from being frozen and then thawed out? Maybe a little, probably not much. My buddy, my boss, has told me it's probably not as much as I'm thinking in my mind, but I look at it as you buy 100 frozen rats like I just did from Cold Blooded Cafe. Big shout out. But you buy those rats and then they sit in your freezer for 3 months maybe or 2 months. So is that knocking stuff down? Or is it safe to say that they're getting that full what's the word? Caloric intake from
Nutrient, yeah,
nutrition
your
from that?
calories and nutrition.
Yeah. So on top of that, what about the problem feeders? Like I've got a couple snakes downstairs that it's funny. I've got 2 female ball pythons. One's a Mojave, one's a Chris's favorite hypo het clown. So one time the hypo will eat and the Mojave won't, and the next time the Mojave will eat and the hypo won't. It's back and forth. Like they never eat at the same time. It's always so. My thought process is what you're going through right now, and I've never had to brain any of the stuff. I shouldn't say that. I used a pinky press back in the day for corn snakes. Anybody that's watching this, don't do it. It's horrible. Blech. But what else can you do? And if you're trying frozen thawed right out of the gate, that's even harder.
Right.
Because they're not getting that natural, that movement. So
right, and I've done a lot of different methods, man. Like this is, it's honestly what makes it fascinating, and it's what makes it freaking frustrating all at the same time. Like I've tried, taken Justin's ideas and kept them on paper for X amount of time, introduced X amount of meals on paper, switch substrate to give them some stress and see if that'll activate their food response. I've brained their prey. I've used the vanilla extract trick that I've heard so much about. I've already given hatchlings rides in the truck and been like off-roading in the truck to stress them out, bring them back in, and I try to feed them that night. And sometimes it takes, sometimes it doesn't. It's just, I don't know. I think it's all experimentation at this point because honestly, it's my first 2 clutches, so I've never had to fully start animals before. So it's definitely presented its own challenges. And then on top of that, the ones that I did start fairly young that may have only had like 1 or 2 meals, and I was like, dude, I'll get them started. I'm not worried about it. Send them to me. I had live at that point. So I've done everything completely frozen thawed for the last probably 2 years. And now I'm bringing in animals now that have only been on live. So I'm now getting problem feeders that I've never had in my life because they've all been converted to frozen thawed. They've had no issue. so I have to convert. But I'm also starting rats up again myself because one, it makes it easier with babies, like you said. That movement is so vital, and you could sit here and like have a seizure trying to make this freaking prey item wiggle as a frozen thawed, and there's times where it works, and there's just times where it doesn't. I've tried different tricks, like what Cusco used to tell me. He places a pinky to thaw out as frozen thawed in front of the enclosure. So like on each one of these shelves that you see behind me on the shelf, I would have like a hopper mouse or a pinky rat that's frozen, and I'd let it defrost and dethaw in front of the enclosure. So literally all that baby's smelling all day is that prey item, right? Yep. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And the issue that I have, like, I've gotten all of them to eat at least once unassisted. It's the consistency.
Yeah,
I can get them to eat, but I can't keep them eating for consecutive weeks. And then I'll go and I'm trying not to have to brain or not have to assist feed at all. And they start getting to where they do really well, and then they freak out again. They take that break, and you start seeing them lose a couple of grams, which as a baby is pretty freaking terrifying. Yeah, like
that's a lot.
See grams go down, and it's horrifying. So I don't know if it's like a health thing, if I'm doing something wrong. It's trial and error, man.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I think as breeders and keepers, I don't think any of us do anything wrong. I think there's a formula for every individual animal, and you just need to hit that formula at that time, at that moment. And some of them take right off and some of them don't. I mean, I had 30 baby retics, and the first thing I did was I waited. We put them in one big container. We let them all shed. And then we put them in 6-quart tubs on paper towels. And their first meal, I tried frozen thawed. I thawed them out, made them nice and warm. And I took them and set them in there, and I left them. And I think out of the 30, one ate. And I was like, okay. So we marked that one. Okay, that one will take frozen thawed. The next time I tried to feed it frozen thawed, nope, didn't want nothing to do with it. Hid, back underneath, So I think you get to that point where you throw in that live feeder and it crawls around, and if it's in there for a day or so as a hopper rat, it's not going to hurt anything, and either it's going to eat or it's not. I have literally gotten to the point where it's like, which is easier, grabbing the snake, putting it in and putting it back in its cage and letting it do its thing, or be extremely frustrated. Right. I know in like tease feeding, like arboreal vipers, Cody was teaching me how to do it. And he's like, just, you got to take that rat tail and when it bites it, just let go and don't move. And I'm like, okay, for how long? He's like, until it finishes it. I'm like, so I just have to stand there like a statue? He's like, yeah. So he says, go ahead and do it. So I take the rat tail and I'm like poking it. He's like, what are you doing? Screwing the thing with it? He's like, give me that. And he's literally like, dude, he's literally whack, whack. And the snake's spinning in circles as he's hitting him. He's like, dude, you got to piss this animal off so that it's like, it's going to bite that thing and hold on because it doesn't want to get batted again. And sure as shit, he would do that and it would bite on, hold on to it. And he'd be like, okay, don't move. And then it would work it down and eat. And he goes, there's a difference with tease feeding. He goes, the big thing is you got to understand is you're really trying to aggravate that animal so much that it's going to take that. And some animals don't do very well with it.
Right.
So, I did the whole 100 lot of ball pythons years ago, and half of them died because I couldn't get them to eat. Even assist feeding, I would get that rat almost all the way down, and just the butt would be sticking out, and I'd put him back, and I'd come back an hour later, and the rat would be spit up, and I'm like, it's one of those things that you just have to figure out what works for you in your environment, where you're at. And unfortunately, sometimes that takes some time, but it's nerve-wracking, I mean, cut your teeth now. And I mean, that's the only way to put it. I mean, I've got 2 emerald tree boas here. Everybody tells me emerald tree boa babies are the easiest to get going. Oh, they take right off. You're lying. You suck. So these are a buddy of mine. The first snakes that he produced were emeralds. Unbelievable. They're beautiful, but he couldn't get them to eat. So 6 months, they haven't eaten. Nothing aside from now what I've assist fed them.
Right.
And I've gotten one of them to take a hopper mouse here and there, and that one's mine. And it just went off food completely again and won't take anything, so I'm back to do the assist feed thing. And it's so annoying.
Well, I heard kind of a big thing with those two, or it depends on their generation. Like,
Yeah.
if you're looking at wild caught F1, F2, I think even up to F3 on some of them,
It makes sense.
There's just major issues with getting them to eat because
Yeah.
they're looking at what, primarily bats and birds with ETBs.
Yep. Small ones, probably frogs.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I'll say, let's see, was it maybe 8 months ago when the first clutch of bilineata were born last year in March. So yeah, about a year ago now. That group, Cody found a cricket frog outside, and he's dead set against like feeding animals like that because of parasites. But he was like, the last 16 that he had, it was 8 hours of tease feeding, and he's like, I just don't have time for this. So takes a frog, throws a frog in there, 15 minutes, frog's gone. Like, he was shocked. So these snakes will take right off. So the idea is if you produce something like that lives in that type area, like an emerald green tree python, get those small cricket frogs and get them feeding, at least get them work their digestive system going. And then at some point, just start to introduce, throw a pinky in there and see if it eats it, and I'm telling you, I think that's one of the things that we miss out on is the cues from the animals. Everybody thinks that, green tree pythons, cut the head off a pinky, stick it on a skewer, stick it in its face. That's, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I hear horror stories from people that are like, had a whole clutch of green tree pythons, they all died not because I did something wrong, because they wouldn't eat. I've heard that about ball pythons. I've had that happen with ball pythons. All those imported babies.
You have the same thing. I was actually talking about this today with one of my mentors. You have the same thing in venomous. Like, I think it was Atrox we were talking about. There's a caramel albino line and a purple albino line, and for some reason, we don't know if it's the toxicity, of the venom, we don't know what it is, but it is damn near impossible to get them to eat. And most of the babies that are produced from these animals, regardless of who has them, their experience level, anything like that, they're gone within 6 months to a year after they're born because they just don't eat.
Yeah.
There's something in, we were talking about it and we said there's got to be something in the genetics, something in that morph, like that's playing within the genetics that's messing it up. Obviously we're not scientists, we're just we're thinking. But that's off of reasoning with, like, if you watch one of these animals strike, that prey item is running around for a little bit versus you see like an anery or a normal type strike, that prey item's usually on its back within a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So is it a toxicity issue that,
That's what we're wondering. Maybe the albinism is causing a lower toxicity. Not sure. I know there's I forget the group of ladies in California that study the rattlesnakes. I know Cusco's talked about them a couple of times. I want to say that one of them was actually looking into this, and that's what made me kind of bring it up with my mentor today, wondering. And we kind of both came to the agreement that there has to be something in it. But it's just funny, like, why does the normal take off so well? Why does an anery or very melanistic animal take off so well in these lines, but then you get a form of albinism minus the regular albino, and it's virtually null
it's a weak gene
and void.
Yeah, it's a weak gene. There's some other species, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've heard people talk about other species of reptiles that some genes, like similar to your spider, your jaguar, like I have a jag carpet right here, and he or she is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like if you leave her alone, she's fine. As soon as you open the door up to feed her, she freaks out. She flails around. She throws herself. If she strikes, she bites everything but the mouse. Then when she finally gets the mouse, she grabs it and just kind of whips it around because she can't figure out how to coil up. Now, when she's calm, she's really good. She looks like a normal snake, but she's just very high strung right now. She's still a baby. So, but at the end of the day, those weak genes, I think there's a retic. Is it the ivory? One of the ivory genes in the retics. There's a gene in the retics it's just not a strong gene, and I don't think it's anything that anybody really produces consistently. But again, you have that gene and those genetics that just aren't as strong. So maybe that form of albinism is missing something in the DNA, and it's never going to be strong. Or you have to find an animal and breed it out enough to get it far enough away from the original that, and that's just going to take time. Obviously, what about the het side of it? Are hets feeding good?
The hets seem to be fine, but when that homozygous form shows,
it's still,
they don't seem to survive.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, again, we're not scientists here.
Right.
None of us are. And I don't want to say none of us, but the majority of us aren't, and we can make guesses. And at the end of the day, these are some of the things in the reptile industry that drive me nuts. Is we're sitting here talking and making guesses, and maybe we're completely wrong, but maybe we're on the right path. And somebody that does know what they're talking about hears this and says, "Oh, wait a minute, I didn't think of that." That you guys aren't right, but you're going in the right direction. Whereas other people are be like, "Oh, you guys are idiots. You know what you're talking about. I'm gonna, that's dumb." And this industry has gotten so judgmental that it's almost depressing.
Fuck that shit. I don't.
Yeah.
You can judge me all you want. You know what I mean? Like
I'm the same way.
I've gone through plenty in my life.
Yeah.
One or two people judging me for something that I do because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't give two shits anymore.
We did the retics down here, and unfortunately Florida, in its infinite wisdom, decided that we weren't going to be allowed to do it anymore, and I don't think that's going to change. But alas, that's just the way that it is. And we switched back over, went back to ball pythons, and we have a bunch of boas, and we're actually moving in 2 weeks, and I need to reset up reptile room, have everything, the way that I want it. I got to venom proof it so I can get my VRC. And I'll be honest with you, the YouTube thing takes time. We're obviously going to start working on the supplement stuff, so that's more time. So it's like, where do all the animals fall into play? And it's like,
right.
I'm nervous, and me and my wife had this conversation, and I want to get your opinion on it. So when I did the retics, we bought one pair. That was it. And we bred that pair. That's all we had. And then we said, well, this is pretty cool. Let's get this animal. Let's get this animal. Let's get this animal. Let's get this animal. We ended up with like 8 or 10 of them. And then the law comes in. I'm petrified right now to get my venomous permit and go out and spend a bunch of money on venomous. The retics it's a niche market because they're so big, but they're not venomous. Now you have venomous snakes. What do you do with them? Now, what if I have money invested? Now what do I do? I'm so torn with this that any input from everybody is greatly appreciated at this point, because I just don't know what to do.
That's a hard call. I can't give you 100% clear answer on that, because there's two major factors that are going to fall into it in my eyes. Like, you're looking at an economic standpoint, obviously, within the industry and within what you're doing. You want to keep these animals, and obviously you want them to thrive. It's just in our general nature that if we can get a pair, we want to reproduce.
Yeah.
We want to ensure the survival of the species, whether that's the main focus on it or not. 9 times out of 10, it's fucking not. But
yeah,
I mean, it's in our nature. Like, if we can get a male and a female, we're gonna at least try, at least once. You know what I mean? With that being said, unfortunately, a lot of venomous aren't as expensive as other animals, though I think they should be. I think that market should be a lot harder to get into, because I can definitely get my hands on some very high toxicity animals that would end a lot of people's lives for fairly cheap. But with the training behind it, I mean, I know where your passion lies, man. I know that you wouldn't sell to
it would
retarded people. Well,
I'll be honest with you.
I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean when I say
it's so hard.
It's a lot of hassle.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yes, and responsibility for, I feel like, minimal payout. If they, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it, because you know how I feel about rattlesnakes, and how I would love to keep some and reproduce eventually. But even in my state, like, I'm don't get me started on the roundups, but like, we need all the rattlesnakes we can get out in the wild right now. They rounded up, I think they said I think it was like 14,000.
They like to go round up some of them guys and kick them all in their fucking nuts. You heard it first.
Let me do a human roundup for a little while. I'm not going to kill them and do all the things that they do to the rattlesnakes.
Maybe we can tase them.
Let me torture them for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Taser.
Let me waterboard you. Show you what it's like to be in a POW camp, something like that.
Put you in a big fucking pen with a bunch of other idiots that are all rolling around and being stepped on.
Yep. But
no, and here's my thought, and I'm going to go ahead and get my permit done, because I don't technically have to buy any animals, but I've worked all this time to get the hours in, to get the test done, to get to this point. So my thing is this: I have no intentions of wanting to breed any of these animals. However, when I look at things like eyelash vipers, which are my favorite, I want to set up that, 36 by 36 by 18, all planted with a pair in there or a trio, and just leave them alone and never touch them. There's no reason to. When people say, well, that's really not true, I go back to being at Cody's and my mentor and learning about their characteristics. And for a year and a half, I never saw the male bilineata because he lived in a cork tube. And I asked Cody, I'm like, is he okay? Cody's like, yeah, he comes out every 3 months. He comes out, goes right to the front of the cage. That means he's hungry. I feed him. He goes right back into the log, and he doesn't come out. That's it. The female sits up underneath the UVB light and the heat light. She moves from one side to the other. And she's had, last year, she had 2 clutches. So she had like 18 babies in total last year, 6 months apart. So, and those animals live together all the time. Why would you don't need to take them out. For the most part, those arboreal vipers live up in that. So if you see them in a good spot, you can go in with hemostats and grab sheds. They are bioactive. The majority of the poop and stuff is taken care of. But I guess there's a part of me that wants to, and I know how this will work. I'll get a pair of eyelash vipers. Then I'll be like, okay, I haven't heard anything in 3 days. I'll get a pair of something else. Oh, it's been 3 more days. I haven't heard anything. And I'll get something else. It's been a month. I'll get this. And then it'll be, oh, by the way, we're here to take your permit away. And be like, fuck, why'd you tell me this a month ago? You know, but I think getting the permit and seeing where things sit, I've got a great fish and wildlife officer. Damon is awesome. You know, I've talked to him. I don't even have my permit, and I've talked to him a bunch of times. He's a cool dude. He is a snake guy. My last inspector in Palm Coast is actually a venomous guy. So, which was cool, which was really cool, because some of these guys, like Cody's Reno, his other inspector, they hated snake. Not hated him, but just, you know, was like, I'm good. Leave that in the cage. I don't want to see that. Put it away. You know? So it's like, no, you know, you want these guys to be somewhat excited, you know? I mean, we're excited, right? You get excited. I get excited. You know, I love when I see, you know, when I see something new. You know, Cody just posted a video today of a new spitting cobra, Ecuadorian spitting cobra, that I haven't even seen yet. And that snake is awesome. Like banana yellow, you know, I can't wait to see it. So, but it's so hard to make that decision, because what if they decide to take those animals away from you, or take your right away to keep them? And I fall back to this conversation that we've had a million times. You know, these free handling guys here in South Florida just don't get it. And I don't know if you've seen, but in the last 6 months, there's been 8 bites. And in the last, I want to say, and everybody can correct me, and I'm sure y'all will, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 bites here. I believe
just
it was
in Florida.
No, not here in Florida. On the Carolinas, in this area. I believe it was a cane break. There was a green mamba bite, and also a Philippinensis bite. The black and yellow. Cody's going to kill me for not remembering which one it is. I think it's the Eastern Philippine spitting cobra. I think. Cody will correct me, which is fine, because I should know that, because that snake is the bane of my existence in his collection. It's a pain in the ass. But they're beautiful. And we've had these bites, and it's like, this is bad news. This is bad. Like,
right.
Albeit I don't believe that any of them were free handling bites. One a dingo, the guy from Africa, one of his workers was bitten by a green Jameson's, and he kind of told the story on his YouTube. And I'll tell you what, it's scary to think that adolescent snake that's maybe 18 inches long had one wrap of its tail around the hook and was completely stretched into its box, and all he did, not thinking, was take his finger and touch that tail, and that snake doubled right back and got him on the finger faster than he could move his hand. That's unbelievable. So for these crazy guys that are free handling this stuff because they know the animal's behavior, they know the animal, they're one with the animal, whatever you want to say, at any point in time, that attitude could change. How often? I mean, listen, I know MBKs are bad. They're like undercover, you know, oh, I'm just going to bite you. Why? Because I can. They don't?
Mine are little chicken shits.
Okay, I've always heard that those were like...
They hide in the back.
Oh, really? Oh, well, okay. You learn something.
I don't know what it is about mine, but mine are big puppy dogs.
Well, that's good.
When it comes feeding time, like they're gentler than the freaking corn snake is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good thing.
They'll come up and they just grab right off the tongs and they just slide back into their corner and eat.
Yeah.
Granted, I do know a lot that they'll come up and they have a very very strong food drive, and they have a very strong will to show that defensive posture, and more than likely bite if you keep going forward. Mine prefer to musk, thankfully.
Oh,
not that I enjoy that either, but
I was gonna say, I think I'd rather take the bite.
I mean, it's just cleaning a cage. You know,
yeah, but that stuff stinks.
I do that every day.
I
do that every day anyways.
Good
so I would rather get musked and just get it cleaned off versus All right, now I got to worry about, did they lose a tooth, or
Oh yeah.
am I gonna have to worry about infection now because I have these open wounds and I still have all these other animals to take care of? So more than likely, I'm gonna get another animal's piss or shit in it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't use gloves. Like
Yeah, I
I
can't.
don't.
It bothers me.
I already have a very low sense of I don't
Feel?
know. Yeah, I can't I can't feel very much in my fingertips or through my fingers. I actually drop stuff if I'm not watching it. Uh, when they tested it, I essentially have the reflexes already of like a 60-year-old man running through my arms and legs
Jesus.
at 30 years old. Or when they tested me, I was 30 years old, so it's probably worse now. And they call it a partial paralysis because I don't have the feeling.
Mm.
Um, I don't have that dexterity that I used to through
Okay.
everything as well. So it is what it is, man. And that's kind of one of the things that's really kept me away from hots at this point
Mm.
is, okay, if I'm working a hook,
What
I got
if?
to watch the snake more than I watch the hook. So until I get my hands trained to do everything right,
Yeah.
it's not a smart thing. But to be the cameraman and to be at a safe distance, all right, I can do that all day.
Yeah, of
You know what
course.
I mean?
I mean, like I said, it's hard. I mean, and here's the thing: what people don't realize is, as they pass these laws, they put wording in there that can really hurt us all. I mean, look at there's never been a rock python found in the wild here yet, and I don't even believe this subspecies of the rock python is even over here, or very many of them. But the southern rock, they said it could potentially be here, so we want to add that one too.
right.
And it's like, okay,
And it could potentially go all the way up to Maryland. Yeah,
yeah,
show me where a fucking cold-blooded
yeah,
animal
is going to
that
live in
is
Maryland.
that big can go into
There's none.
sub-negative degrees.
There's none in Orlando. They haven't even. They're not this far. So the thing is, but what I'm saying is now they've said they could put any animal they deem dangerous to the ecosystem. So a bearded dragon, a leopard gecko, panther chameleon, a veiled chameleon. There's veiled chameleons all over the place. There's panther chameleons all over the place. Those are the things that we don't, as keepers, we don't pay attention to what's being put in there. Well, some of that stuff is damning, and it's hard for me to want to keep more animals. And there's that side of me that struggles with, you know, do you keep your mouth shut and keep whatever you want and just don't let anybody know? I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie. I did it in New York, because in New York, when all that stuff, I mean, you just don't show anybody, I mean, so, but that's the thing. If you go back and watch the video from the open Zoom call with Fish and Wildlife back in February, somebody asked that question.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah, somebody asked that question, and they said all the commissioners looked at each other like, "Oh fuck, we didn't think about that." Like, now everybody's going to keep them illegally. What are you going to do? You had the opportunity.
Your black market.
Yeah, you had the opportunity to tax everybody and say, okay, you have to have a permit to have it. You have to have an inspection. You're going to pay this much money. That's the way it is. We're going to tax you. To, no, you can't keep it. Now people are just going to keep them, behind closed doors, and that's just, what are you going to do?
And then you're going to get that stupid person outside of the industry that bought one because they had to have it, and they just knew that one person, and now that one's out in the wild, and now you're going to create this whole fuss, and we give too much firepower. And it's going back to a talk that we've had times, like you were talking about with free handlers before, man. Like, in my opinion, I think you should do whatever the fuck you want. But that's just me. That's what I fucking fought for.
No, I agree with that.
That's my way of thinking. After what I did for my country and all that, I believe everyone should do whatever the fuck they want because that's their God-given right.
Yep.
That being said, I think it should be done in a smart way, and it shouldn't be blasted everywhere.
Shouldn't be on social media.
I was a very, very, very large supporter of I don't know his real name, but the real Tarzan. And I watched him with Tyler. And so before I made my assumptions, I watched every side of it because there was multiple people there. They all put it up, right? They pulled out his hybrid
the bat wing or whatever it's called.
Eastern snake. Yeah. So I saw the way that he was reacting, and then I saw the way that Tyler was reacting, and I watched the way that the other people were reacting, and you could see that he was scared of it in the first place, which thank God he was at least scared.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he was looking away to talk to the camera versus watching the animal, things like that, that's what worried me. That's what made me lose a little bit of fucking respect. Like, if you're going to be stupid enough to post something like that, like, think about the following that he has. I'll pull it up right now because I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are, but
yeah, I won't watch any of Tyler's videos because I think he's a douche. I think he's a
wasn't even Tyler. Like, I watched it. I saw it from
from his
Tarzan,
perspective.
right?
Yeah.
And
I'm not a big fan of his either. But
sides.
I had.
So you're looking at 6.2 million.
Yeah.
6.2 million people, and if that had gone wrong, that's 6.2 million people that are now backing. All right, we should not have any snakes. We should not have any venomous. We should not have this. We should not have that, because our hero did something stupid and almost lost his life, or did lose his life.
Yeah, and that's
a big responsibility to take on.
So I have had the pleasure of having Bob Clark on, and he'll actually air right before this episode. And Bob is awesome. And Bob thinks the same way you do. It's your life. It's your house. It's your money. You've earned it. You're free. Do it. But don't put it on social media. That's all. Listen, I don't like Tyler Nolan. Period. Will never say anything else. However,
we all know that.
However, yes. However, I know that he cares for his animals. I know that Chandler cares for his animals. I know those guys love their animals. I know they know about their animals. What bothers me is we post those videos, and if you go, who was it? Justin Smith from Herpetoculture Magazine, Herpetoculture Network, posted a screenshot of the green mamba bite and what people were saying. It's damning. Why do these people have these animals? They have no business. You know, that's ridiculous. That why? And those are the 6.2 million people that are watching, saying, "Hey, why do you have that? And why did you do that? Why?" You know, it's so. The thing is we don't need to give that ammo to them. If you want to do you. I have no problem with that.
Well, it's not even venomous at this point. Like,
yeah. Oh, it's everything.
It is every animal. Like, you look at, they are already trying to reattack the Lasiac this year.
Yep.
They've attacked in what, five or six different states.
Yep.
So they attacked countrywide. They attacked 5 or 6 different states initially. I think you guys got hit twice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're loving our
just within the year, and we're only in 3 months.
Yeah.
Like,
so real quick, let's say this: Senator Ted Cruz, because you're the one that's pulling this Lasiac shit. I don't even understand why. Why? You know, yeah, 100%. Somebody's giving him money.
Lobbyists, man. Yeah. That's what makes this go around. You think any of these senators, any of these fucking lawmakers,
they don't
write any of this shit? They don't know anything about it. They couldn't make an educated fucking decision on it. Not that they make an educated decision on it anyways, because if you watch the last fucking FWC meeting in Florida, they literally walked away anytime someone that had a relevant point against what they wanted to do came on. They didn't take their vote. Like, they waited for people to leave and tried to vote while people were leaving.
So here's a little.
And then the founders fucking taking that land away anyways to create fucking housing on. Come on.
So he is selling that land now because he got so much heat from that, of course. But here's the thing. People don't even realize they controlled that whole phone system. So that type of call-in system that you're sitting on queue and you're waiting, they know who's there. So Rob from Nerd got in because he had a different area code, but Kevin sat on hold. They know whose phone numbers these are. These are not stupid people. They know. They can check and see and say, hey, we don't want this person. We don't want that person. These people are calling from different states. They're calling in because they're supporting this. We don't want them on here. We don't want to hear logic. We don't want to hear fact. We want to tell people and scare them to think that these animals are going to go all the way up to Maryland and procreate there and take over everything. Well, you know what, guys? Let's be honest. If that was going to happen, why hasn't it happened in their country of origin? Why haven't they spread any further than that? Do you think because they come from that area, they respect the boundary and say, ooh, I can't go on that side of the line. I don't belong there. No, you idiots. Of course they could go further. Of course Florida has the perfect weather. We're the best goddamn state in the country. But at the end of the day, you can't just go and ban everything. Be educated.
I mean, you can if you're a senator, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. There's a lot of things you can do as a senator or a governor. I mean, look at New York's governor. Mario Cuomo there. He's quite the hound dog. But here's the thing. I mean, we're grown-ups. And if Fish and Wildlife wants to sit down and say, hey, we feel that these species are a conditional or they're conditional or a threat to the environment, we want to add them to a list that you have to have a permit for and you're going to pay for that permit. Well, okay. I'm not saying say $25. I'm sorry to say this, and I know there's people that are going to heavily disagree with me. Make that permit $500 to $1,000. Make it sting a little bit. And here's the thing: if it's a breeding permit, and you're breeding animals, and you've got to pay $1,000 a year, consider that a tax. You're paying taxes on that animal. I work in nutraceutical. We spend over $1 million a year in testing products that we send out. That's called the cost of doing business. You know, that's what that is. So maybe if you were getting money from a substantial amount of money, it would be better. What you're doing right now is you're taking that away. Now you have FWC officers. What are you going to do when they don't have jobs? You're just going to cut them loose, lay them off? You're taking work away from them. You know, I mean, there's a cause and effect to everything that we do. You know, I mean, it makes no sense. So, you know, and it's scary because the last thing I want to see is my kids or my kids' kids not be able to be a part of something that we do and we love. You know, right. I mean, you go to
it's a really hard thing because we want to kind of play devil's advocate on ourselves, but with the passion that we've instilled and what we're always feeding ourselves in our own mind, it's really hard to play devil's advocate and see it from that side too. And I just have a foul taste in my mouth for government and politics in general, but
for sure.
I mean, I'm one of those. I believe the Wild West should still be the Wild West. You know what I mean? Handle your own shit, but that's personal views.
Listen, it's the same thing when you look at, you know, let's touch on clickbait. I don't want to say that it's all bad, but how about, you know, Brian Barczyk, who I've been a big supporter of forever, his new video where he's got an alligator on a harness and he's walking it around outside. Come on. These animals aren't novelties. You know, I love the Reptarium. I think it's a fantastic platform. I don't condone that. I don't. He's got a picture with a probably 12-year-old holding the albino alligator. That's a big alligator. Yeah, do some damage. I don't care how many people you have around. It's a split second. I can't. I have a real hard time supporting some of that stuff, you know, and every day gets harder and harder. And one of the things that, you know, I've had conversations with like our group here in Florida, the people that I'm close with, is how do these bigger YouTube guys support the negative in the industry and give these guys a platform to collaborate with them to show such negative handling techniques, husbandry, care, attitude. I get that we have a platform and it's our platform, and if I want to have these guys on my show and support them, then I can do that because that's our right. But at the end of the day, we're fighting for our rights all over the country to keep these animals, and we're showcasing the negative. We're showcasing bad, let's just say this, not negative, bad handling techniques. Bad handling.
Well, that's the devil's advocate that I was talking about before, because look at Steve Irwin.
Yep.
Like,
and listen, now that I'm older,
God. He's the god, though.
Now
right?
that I'm older,
but if you look at what he did
100%
to make reptiles mainstream,
yep,
it was wrong.
Yeah, the first video I think of
but
when
it's
I think
not wrong.
of him, the first video I think of when I think of him is the death adder, the one that was on his shoe or on his foot. That's the first thing I think about, and I think back to that time when I was younger, and I think to myself that I had the attitude then that that's my idol. I want to be just like that guy. But now that I'm older and maybe a little bit wiser, I want to say that, I look at it and think, wow, how foolish was I for thinking that that was safe? Now, if that's the way he does things, I get it. I don't agree with it. And I've had other people say, if you're a Steve Irwin fan, you're a hypocrite. I love Steve Irwin, but I don't condone that. And I can honestly say that at this juncture, if it was now and he was doing it, I would not condone it. I've heard stories, you know, you hear the stories, oh, they cooled those animals down, you know, they did this, they weren't. I think that's bullshit.
They do.
I think
they 100. I could tell you from talking to people that I know in TV land, that's what they do to reptiles. They cool the reptiles to cool their temperature during
a handling session, yeah.
And handling. And then so the attacks that you saw are obviously near the same spot that they're at, but it's not the same spot. Like it's TV magic. It's TV, and they play the game.
Yeah.
They play the game because they have to, because you have to keep it entertaining. And the only way we're going to keep growing this industry is by keeping it entertaining. So it is a devil's advocate, brother. Like, I hate to say it. You need that clickbait bullshit.
Yeah.
You need that shit that you don't agree with to keep people coming in. But at the same time, you need that person to counteract that and give the educational and the safety.
So let me ask you
responsible keeping and handling.
Let's take a look at what's happening here in Florida and see how bad that is, right? We know it's bad. So February 25th was Friday. 25th was Thursday, 26th was Friday. Yeah. So on Thursday, the first day of the meetings, Tyler Nolan posts a picture on his stub finger from the cobra bite with a baby Insularis that he produced. By the way, again, I'll say it. Congratulations on producing Insularis. That's very cool. They're beautiful. But you pick the first day of the meetings in your state where you have to hold a permit to free handle a highly venomous viper on your finger that you were bitten by the cobra and lost half of, as if to say, fuck you, Fish and Wildlife, look at this. Then Saturday, Brian Barczyk's thumbnail, which I know Brian films videos 3 days in advance, so I get that. but his thumbnail is him falling over and his caption is, "My 20-foot retic almost killed me." It's poor timing. I get what you're saying. Yes, we do need
But
that.
it was a long. So I don't know about Tyler's. I don't follow him close enough to give two shits.
I'm sorry.
Like I said, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
No,
I said that when you were on my show, brother.
Yeah,
like
I apologize.
It is what it is.
I shouldn't say that.
Barczyk, when he posted that, he was already on a week-long string of clickbait titles and thumbnails.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I get it. I get it.
It is what it is.
But
that's why you need to stand up and do what you're doing. Like,
yeah,
you're so mad about that stuff, but
yeah, no,
take the time to do the education. Like,
so here's
your
the
yin
thing,
and yang.
So here's the thing, though. With that being said, and having that, do you think it's a smart idea for people to look around and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to change this thumbnail for this video just because of what's happening. And maybe I'm going to dedicate 3 or 4 minutes in my next videos, 5 minutes in my next videos to talking about something very educational and try to push off some of this other stuff and deflect it a little bit. Like Tyler is a perfect example. He lives here in Florida. Chandler, Will, all these guys that live here should be pushing real hard right now the positives of everything. I understand that they do this to make a living. I get that. Guys, I'm okay with that. I really am. But there's a time and a place, right? So like you just said, use some of it, like do the clickbait, then reel it in, and now you do something that's a little bit more positive. Or maybe you get away from the clickbait a little bit, because I hate to say this, Fish and Wildlife watches these videos. They may not see every single one, but they do watch them. So they're at I think Cody said at tag meetings a long time ago, there was images brought up from people free handling, and he said it came up. It was very brief, but they were like, and look at this. And here's the image of somebody holding the cobra. I don't remember who it was. It wasn't any of the South Florida guys. I don't remember who it was, but regardless, I think you're right. I don't think you're right. I know you're right. There's definitely, you have to have that happy medium of excitement and education. But when things are really, really bad, maybe the excitement needs to fade more to education. And then when it's quiet, you can kind of go back to that, okay, I'm going to be exciting. Look at this. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Until it starts to get bad again. And then you kind of have to change with the times. Like I told you, I talked to my investigator, and he says there's no talk of any venomous changes right now. Well, that's great. What about a year from now? Again, what happens when you have 5 new people spend thousands of dollars on animals and Fish and Wildlife says, hey, you can't have those anymore.
Right.
Now, what do you do? It's not a ball python that I can go and find somebody somewhere else to buy and they're going to go. I'm not just going to put an animal in somebody's hands, something like that. Be like selling a 15-year-old a bazooka, Well, that would be cool.
But it's playing the same. It's playing the same game over and over again.
Yeah.
Though. Like, think about. So here's what we're looking at, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the best way for me to describe it. You have Steve Irwin, which was the epitome, right?
Yep.
Like, everyone wanted to be him. He was the boss.
Yep.
He knew how to do the entertainment side and the educational side.
For sure.
He found a way to mix it.
Yep.
Now, did he always do it right? Absolutely not. But he inspired the passion for generations.
It's still inspiring people as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Still. Yeah.
Now, the other side of that, you have the education side, which, for lack of better terms, let's use the zoo.
Yeah.
Now, what's the zoo promise you when you go into the zoo? It promises you
a safe
interaction with animals you would have no way of seeing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Versus the Steve Irwin, this is going to be up in your face. You're gonna get value out of it. I'm going to show you how dangerous these are, but I'm going to do it in a safe manner for me.
Yeah.
Now, where do you find the fucking happy medium, right? You have the educators like Shanti, like Brandon Fowler, like my dear friend Kim Paws, where they go out and or Brian Gundy.
Yeah.
Great example of it, right? He goes out and he teaches all these kids. He has multiple species on the table at once. doesn't have to worry about anything because he understands the environment. He understands what he's doing. He's worked these animals
Yeah, he knows
to the point where he knows how to read that point. And that's going back on what you said with the venomous. You can't just say, I know these animals. You have to be able to understand and read every moment. And he says, okay, if I see a twitch like this or something like that, that animal's coming off.
Yeah.
Like that animal will not be in the show. And he understands how to read that stuff because he's been doing it for so long. But those shows are the happy medium, right? You're getting these tidbits of education, which the kids aren't going to remember. They're going to remember the excitement of it being pulled out and it being in their hands, and they're getting one-on-one interaction or group interaction of touching this animal, something that they never thought or never imagined that they ever would have the opportunity to. So how do we make that middle ground more exciting? Do you start a reptile zoo or a reptarium or things like that? Is that the answer? What are we doing as an industry to make the safe alternative the best alternative and keep it entertaining enough to draw in more people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, 100%. And to that, let's look at, a Brian Gundy isn't going to put an annulifera or a white monocle cobra on that table. Let's just look at how the behaviors of that animal are. So let's look at the annulifera, because that's what I have experience with. I've pulled those snakes out and with 2 hooks, and they're like a limp noodle. They don't hood. They don't make any attempts. They don't even tongue flick. You put them in a garbage can, they're good. I've had it where I've pulled them out of there and they grab a hold of their own tail. They grab a hold of the box, or they come out good and all of a sudden they just change on a dime. So with that being said, it's like playing with fire. And that, like you just said a few minutes ago, the real Tarzan has 6.2 million followers and he was nervous. And what if he takes a bite on camera? Will it ever be seen? Probably not. But all those followers are going to know about it. They're going to know something bad happened. And the assumptions are going to be made that it was doing something foolish. And then it ties in somebody else that's already taken a bad bite. And all that stuff comes together to be a very negative thing. I'm not saying industry-wise, I'm saying legislation-wise.
Right.
It's bad enough that we're legislated to keep the animals, but if we continuously do stupid things, it's just like, okay, well, I mean, it was a couple months ago, 2 months ago, somebody was just bitten by an annulifera free handling. He was bitten on the bicep. And he was good. He's okay, which is great. But here's the thing. We're free handling an animal that has an intense feed response, and we don't know when that feed response, we don't know when something in the air triggers that feed response. I have a carpet python over here who is awesome. You can pull him out anytime. Today, I don't know what was going on. He still has a big lump in his stomach, but he shed. So I pulled him out to look at him, and he's like really quick to jerk his head around and headbutt my hand. And I'm like, oh shit, he's big enough where this is going to suck if I get bitten. But I know that movement, that fast twitch is like, okay, I'm in food response right now. I'm hunting. So, but you can't always tell just knowing something like that. And I'm not talking about a ball python, a retic, a berm, which listen, retics, berms, anacondas, they're just as dangerous, if not more dangerous than a venomous snake. What I'm saying is don't portray these animals as being not a big deal, because it is a big deal. Don't post at the beginning of your video, I'm a professional, I have experience. You don't. You're 23. Chandler, congratulations on the new property. I can't wait to see what you do with it. But you're 23 years old saying you've been working with venomous reptiles your whole life. That's not very long. So at the end of the day, why take the risk on camera if you don't have to? that type of sensationalism isn't what Steve Irwin was doing. Steve Irwin was out, whether it's fake or scripted or whatever, the show was based around I'm out in the wild. I'm not in a hallway or a building pulling this snake out to say, whoa, look at me. Look at me, look at me, look at me. That's what that's what we've turned into. And
right.
Again, I know these guys care about their animals. No ifs, ands, or buts. All I ask as myself personally is I live here in Florida. I want my permit. I want to keep these animals. Don't fucking ruin it for me because you're foolish. That's all I ask. Like, if you want a free handle till you die. I don't care. That's your, like you said, your God-given right. You're a free American. Do what you want to do. I just ask that we try to keep it off social media so that these senators that have no idea, and listen, I'm not saying that they have a clue, but they're just like, oh, look at the Tiger King, look at the Cobra King. Ooh, this is going to be detrimental to all of us. It's going to fall. And when it does, it's going to be big. And some of these guys are going to be the biggest crybabies about it. They're going to be the ones going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And all of us that have, like you and me and other people that have lost their rights to keep the animals, we're going to scratch our heads and go, fuck, now what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again,
honestly, I'm basing my whole life around this. I got 3 kids. I have a wife. I'm getting ready to move into a house that is more expensive than what I have right now.
Yeah.
Like, if we lose our rights to these animals, I lose my entire livelihood.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's not,
but it
listen,
is.
I know I talk shit. That's just me.
I know.
I don't, again, I'm not a fan of Tyler's because he's a little baby. And Tyler, yes, you are a little baby. And you're probably not going to watch this, but your little message to me about mind my own business and blah, blah, blah. And then you block me. Come on, man. Let's just meet and talk. And I'm open. If you can prove to me that this has to be done, prove it. If you can't, then you're wrong. In which case we all know you are. But at the end of the day, again, he has some awesome animals, and that's cool. But
he has some of my dream animals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, he does. That albino Eastern Diamondback that he has is beautiful. I love that snake, and it's like, man, I just wish we could get off of the social media kick and do it right. Even if it was sprinkled in here and there, I would be upset about it, but I would be less upset to know that you were really, truly educating people and not just doing it to be a bro and say, I'm cool. Somebody said, well, it really doesn't affect you. The guy lives in South Florida. You live in Central Florida. You probably never cross paths. Well, yeah, it does affect me because people do stupid things and we lose the right to keep these animals. And that does affect me. Look at what you just said. People here, I know somebody in North Florida that had a business selling retics. He's out of business. That's all he bred, retics. Now what? Now what do you do? What if that's your whole livelihood? I've heard people say, whoa, well, he should have diversified and done this and done that. Why? He started a business. What if I was selling, what if
it is that, but you think about it, like when you get into something like this, right? Your diversification, tell me I haven't diversified. I have YouTube. Yeah. I have the reading. I have the education. I have possibly a zoo one day. Yeah. Like that's four fucking streams of income.
Yeah.
That my family has relied on heavily. The feeders, because I got to do my own feeders now. You think I'm not going to be selling my excess off?
Of course. What I'm saying though is
what I'm saying is that's your diversification, right? So if you pull that one aspect away, so you pull reptiles out, right? That is 4 fucking revenue streams, potentially 5 or more that you just fucking pulled from me.
Yeah.
It's not that I didn't diversify any of that shit. It's the fact that someone fucked up enough to make me lose one aspect, and I've made an entire life around that one aspect.
And that's the tough part. And, hopefully it doesn't happen.
I got heated.
Yeah, no. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully we can learn from mistakes of the past and start to make changes for the better and for the positive. And, you know, again, one of the things that bothers me is I hear people talk that, you know, some of these guys are influencers and they're the leaders. They're not. These guys are not, and they shouldn't be. And I'm not saying that I am, because I'm probably far further from it. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of good people out there that are just kind of sitting back like this. And when I had Stephen Cush on, one of the things that he said was, we need to put more positive videos out, and all of us be more positive and drown the negative out. And he's right. And a lot of times I get passionate, like you just were. I get passionate about my feelings about this stuff, and I let my feelings interfere with rational thought. And again, it's devastating to me, because I went through it in New York. I went through it here with the retics, and I love those snakes. And all I wanted was just to do my thing and just be left alone. I'll abide by the rules. I'll do it the way you want. Just let me do my thing. And then it was, nope, we know you're doing it right. You spent thousands of dollars on caging, and we don't care. Have a good day. So it's very, very difficult to bite that, you know? So, I mean, hopefully things ease up and it's quiet for a little bit. We need just some quiet, you know? So Daytona's coming up, you know, I want to be able to go and enjoy myself, you know, and hang out with friends, and, you know, so.
I can't wait for Arlington, man.
I bet.
I need to be around my people.
I hear you. So, hey, man, it's been great having you on. This was awesome.
Oh yeah, brother.
You know, we'll wrap it up, and I'll do some soul searching and try to be nicer to my neighbors. No, I will not. You know, good luck with the ball pythons. I
appreciate it.
I think you're on the right track. Do you have anybody near you that has soft birds?
No.
That sucks.
The closest guy to me is probably about 4.5 hours, and I am not willing to do a 9-hour drive for
half dozen mice.
No, not doing it.
Yeah, no,
not doing it.
I feel you on that one, but it might be something that you might want to look at in the future to set up a small colony. You know, I mean, that might be. I've seen differences in animals. It's odd, but just so you know, those things are undercover biters.
Oh, I used to have a small colony of them.
Oh,
when I did rats before. It took me forever to find someone to ship them in to the local pet store, and I had to pay primo price out of that pet store to get them shipped in.
Yeah,
but I got them, and we'll say as much as I will ever do them again.
Yeah,
they really are. But
yeah,
you see a complete difference. But it's not worth the hassle for me.
For sure. But
shit,
all right,
if
sir.
I could do frozen thawed all
life,
I probably would. But.
Everything we have is frozen thawed except for a couple snakes, so I just have to make the trip to the pet store and buy the couple things. But you're right, it's the best way to go. So, but all right, sir. Well, you have a wonderful evening. Again, thank you for coming on. I'll get this posted and let you know when it's up.
Sounds good.
All right, brother. Have a great one, man.
You too.